Hello loves, thank you guys so much for coming back to my channel. I am back again with another video. Today we are going to be talking about February's wrap up and I'm super excited. For the month of February, I read a total of 9 books. 8 of those were physical copies and 1 of them was an audiobook. I will be letting you guys know how I rated them and the genres that I read, but I will be looking down because I don't have it memorized. So for this month, I had a total of, again, 9 books. I had no 5 stars, then I had 1 4.5, 5 4 stars, 2 3.5 stars, and 1 3 stars. I did reread one of these books and I had 4 romance, 1 historical, 1 thriller / suspense, 2 fictions, and 1 self-help. So I would say it was a pretty good month. I did want to read a couple of romance books because of the fact that it was Valentine's Day, but let's get to it because I have a lot of books to review with you guys. So this month I started with the historical fiction, and that is Our Darkest Night by Jennifer Robson, and this was a really good book. This is a book I rated 4 stars. It was mainly because of the fact that I liked the concept of the book. It has to do with, you know, World War II. So it is about an Italian Jewish family who is being prosecuted. A lot of them are being, you know, sent to concentration camps. A lot of them are being deported back to Germany. In this book, we have an Italian woman named Nina. She was born and raised in Italy, so she doesn't really know much of the outside world other than Italy, where she was born. Her dad was a very well-known and successful doctor. At this point of the story, Nina knows that the Nazi soldiers can go to her town and pretty much sweep anyone that has any sort of Jewish resemblance or any sort of Jewish ties to them. And that's scary to her and to her family. Nina's dad ends up setting up an arrangement where she will pretty much act as if she's married to a man named Niccolo. Nico is actually from the outskirts of Italy where he's a farmer. Him and his family are all farmers, and Nina has to go with him through her journey of escaping death. She and Nico have to come up with a plan where they will make sure that no one even doubts the relationship, because I mean, keep in mind that he wasn't dating anyone and then he just brings a girl and all of a sudden that's his wife. So they come up with a plan to make sure that, you know, everybody's gonna believe what they're stating and that she's gonna stay safe where Nico lives. Of course, during this time, you couldn't really trust anyone. Anyone could have easily turned their back on you. So we're gonna see that through this story. And let me just say, it is a very sad story. I don't necessarily read a lot of historical fictions. This is something that I'm jumping into now. I really do tend to enjoy them, but they always break my heart. I mean, it's a historical fiction book about World War II. Why wouldn't it break my heart? But there are a couple of things I liked and disliked. So I really loved Nico. He was definitely the one person in this story that I really felt for, him and his family. Nina, while I didn't really dislike her, she didn't really do anything for me other than the fact that I knew she was struggling, but I felt more for her parents than for her. I also didn't really like how in the beginning of the story, when we see Nina with her family, nowhere does she bring up her religion or what being Jewish means to her. She talks more about her life pre-war, and when she's living with Nico, and you know, she has to pretty much hide the fact that she's Jewish and she has to act as if she's a Christian. I think it's Christian or Catholic, I don't remember. All of a sudden it's a big deal to her, which I understand. I was raised Catholic, but I don't consider myself to be religious. And if someone ever asked me to, you know, do something completely out of my element, it's gonna kind of take me back a bit. But Nina kind of made it seem like, oh my God, you know, I'm Jewish, this is not something I'm supposed to be doing. But I felt like it would have been stronger if they would have showed that in the beginning as well. The ending, I don't know. I mean, I got that she wanted to give us an ending that was kind of gonna wrap it all up for us, but I thought it was such an easy outcome. I was just kind of like, oh, okay. I mean, I'm happy about what happened, but at the same time, I'm like, you could have done more with that. But it was a good book. I enjoyed it. I really liked it. So the next books that I will be talking about, I made a video about, so it should already be up, and that's gonna be the Girl Meets Duke series by Tessa Dare. And I realized after I had already done and put the video up that I'm actually missing a book. I did know that there was a fourth friend, but I swear I looked it up before and I never saw that book. Yet when I Googled it again, all of a sudden it was there. So in that video, I did actually skip a book. I don't have it. I have not read it. It's, I think her name's Nicola or something like that. It's her story, which I think I'm going to do like a reading vlog when I read it. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But that doesn't mean that I don't want to talk about these books, because these are so good. These are the Tessa Dare Girl Meets Duke books. So there's 4 total and I only have 3 here. The first book is The Duchess Deal with the Duke of Ashbury and Emma, who is a seamstress. Emma is actually the seamstress that made the Duke of Ashbury's fiance's dress, but they called off the wedding. And it's mainly because of the fact that he had just got back from war and he has battle scars that scared her and scare pretty much everyone around him. It's supposed to be this really big deal where no one wants to be around him anymore because of the fact that he has like these scars that made him ugly, and they're only on one side of the face. But he really needs an heir because of the fact that he has property and he has a lot of money, and he needs to make sure that it goes to someone. And that's when Emma comes along. He makes her a proposal where he tells her that he will marry her and give her a very comfortable life as long as she gives him a kid, because again, that property money needs to go to someone. But in no way, shape, or form are they going to have any sort of relationship. Let me put this out there. I know a lot of people don't like romance and or can be pretty picky with the romance. I like romance. I tend to like, you know, like hate to love stories or slow burn stories. These are not any of that. They're not, I mean, I guess you can kind of say that they're hate to love in some way. They're not slow burning at all. And they're really like guilty pleasure romance, I would call it. You know, they're just fun to read. It's somewhat of Bridgerton meets comedy, I like to say, because they're really, really funny, and I think that's what gets me. So yeah, I like this one. I don't really like the Duke. I didn't really care for him. I mean, other than the fact that he has all these scars, I just didn't really like his attitude. But I really liked Emma. Then we have The Governess Game, and this one has to do with Chase and Alexandra. And I liked Alexandra in this story because we get to see that she's kind of a woman that comes from nothing and she's trying to survive in the world, whereas Emma is someone that came from a good family, but she's trying to escape that life because they pretty much don't want anything to do with her anymore. But in this one, we have Alexandra, who goes to Chase's house to fix his clocks, because that's what she does. That's her job. But he lets her know that he really needs a governess because all of them keep quitting. And if she becomes a governess for him and he provides her a pretty good salary, you know, that he'll do her a favor and she'll do him a favor. So she takes up the offer. And I mean, what do you think is going to happen if you're living with this sexy gentleman that is like known to be a little man whore? The story is really funny. It's really cute. I like the little girls in this story. I liked Alexandra. I didn't really care for Chase and Alexandra though. Like, they didn't blow my mind away. But I did really like the little girls in the story. And I really did like Alexandra's backstory, where we learned about what happened to her parents and what pretty much makes her who she is at that time. But my favorite one is definitely this one, The Wallflower Wager. And this one has to do with Gabriel and Lady Penelope. And it's my favorite because in these two, we meet Lady Penelope. And I already loved Lady Penelope before I even read her story. She is a pretty well-known lady, you know, she's what people would consider a spinster. She's older, she doesn't have a partner, she lives in her home with all these animals, but she ends up finding out that her brother wants to take her back to the countryside so that she can live a proper life, because she's not supposed to be living in a town by herself with no suitor, and nobody, like none of the guys really like her. She doesn't really put herself out there. She doesn't really care about the way she looks, even though she's considered to be very beautiful. She just really cares more for her pets and for her friends. And she ends up meeting her neighbor, Gabriel Duke, who is kind of like a rags to riches guy. He comes from nothing and he's kind of creating his own like empire, I would say. So Gabriel Duke buys a house next to her and he plans on selling it for more because of the fact that people will die to live next to a very well-known and established lady, like Lady Penelope. So that's his plan, to sell the property for more than what he bought it for. However, Penny gets a visit from one of her family members, letting her know that she needs to get rid of all of the animals and she needs to put herself out there, or if she doesn't, she will go back to live in the countryside with her brother, which she absolutely does not want to do. So her and Gabriel kind of set up a little contract where he's gonna help her sell the animals and she will help him sell a house. And yeah, I mean, it's funny, it's cute. All of the other characters come out in this one, and I really like Penny. Like I said, I kind of think she's a Pisces just because she loves her animals and she loves everything and everyone. So I feel like that's, I don't know, probably why I connected with her the most. But these are cute, you guys. I like them. They're cute. Oh, I forgot to give you guys my rating. So I did end up giving the Duchess deal a 3.5. And the Governess Game a 4, and the Wallflower Wager a 4.5. And it was mainly because this one really kept me super entertained, and it was so funny, and I really liked both of the characters. So I ended up reading a book, like I said, and that was because of the fact that this movie came out this month, and that is Always and Forever Laura Jean by Jenny Han. And oh my god, you guys, I cannot believe the movies are over and done with, because I think I waited so long for this. So originally when I read this book years ago, I think I rated it like a 3.5. And this time I ended up enjoying it more and bumped that up to a 4. In this book, we have the ending of Laura Jean and her high school years. We find out that she's preparing to go to college. She's waiting to see what colleges she got into, and she doesn't really know if she's going to stay in a relationship with Peter. If you guys have read the other books and watched the movies, you guys would know that Laura Jean's mom told the girls that they should go to college without a boyfriend, which her sister Margot did. She broke up with Josh and went to her college in, where'd she go? Ireland, Scotland, something like that. So Laura Jean doesn't know if to follow those footsteps. She is very different from her sister, so it's kind of up in the air of what her actions are going to be. Now, I really enjoyed this book. I felt like it had so much detail. I was just kind of like, whoa, they're doing so many things. I felt like they could have cut back on some of the things and spread certain scenarios a little bit longer, like maybe the camping thing, the ending, towards the ending, the camping when they go to the camp. I just felt like there could have been more emotion there, because I was really annoyed with both of them. And I mean, they're younger, I get that, but I was just kind of like, you guys are not really communicating, and there's really not, like, how do I know that I'm supposed to be rooting for you guys, or that I know that you guys are going to work out, when you guys have not been communicating at all this whole time? Like, how do you think it's going to work if you guys go to college in different states? Which is the whole premise of the story, because, you know, they do get accepted to different schools. I mean, I can see why it would be the topic, because Laura Jean really wants to get into the school that Peter gets into, but I just feel like that limits you a lot when you're barely starting off your career, like not even your career, your education. You could literally go anywhere. But I thought it was a cute ending to the story. I really liked it. I like the fact that we really see the fact that Laura Jean is her own person, and even though she's learned so much from her mom and her sister, because her sister is a really big part of her life, but we see that Laura Jean follows her own footprints, and that she kind of just knows that at the end of the day, the decision is ultimately up to her. And I feel like that definitely sets a different journey for Kitty, because Kitty is kind of being raised, you know, she was raised by Margot too. Margot took care of her since she was a little kid, but she spent her last couple of years with Laura Jean. I just feel like that would have been a great example for her to just kind of follow her own dreams and make her own decision without really having to think into what her sisters would do. You know what I mean? Because I feel like that's so easy. Like, what would my sister do? So yeah, I really liked it. It was a sweet ending to the story. I baked a cake and watched the movie, and yeah, so it was a really fun. My next book is a thriller / suspense, and that's gonna be Then She Was Gone by Lisa Jewell. And you guys, I've read a Lisa Jewell book before. I think it was called like I Found You, and I was 100% not a fan of it. I think I gave it like a 1.5 or 2, but I really enjoyed this one. I wouldn't really call it a thriller because it's really not. I consider it to be a little bit more suspenseful than a thriller. It has to do with a woman named Laurel whose daughter Ellie goes missing. Ellie's like her perfect girl. She gets good grades, she's good in school. Ellie is trying to get into a good college, she's preparing for her test, and she's in her first serious relationship, and everything is, you know, up and coming for her. It's a really exciting chapter of her life. So she's under a lot of pressure, and she gets her mom to get her a tutor just so that she's, you know, top notch for her test. And a couple of months after this, Ellie goes missing. They consider her to be a runaway, but Laura's like, absolutely not. I know my daughter. I know something happened to her, but they never really find out what happened. Years later, they end up finding a purse that belonged to Ellie, and they pretty much tell Laurel, we're pretty sure that your daughter ran away and she probably just tried to get rid of her stuff. But Laurel's still not 100%. But after that, they also find her remains, and they can't really do an autopsy. It's been years. Her body has been, it's not even complete. It's been scattered by animals. During this time, her family has already fallen apart. She's no longer with her husband. Her kids kind of have separated themselves from her. They're still in her life, but not like she would like them to be. And she ends up meeting a man. This man's name is Floyd, and he has 2 daughters, but one of them lives with him. Her name's Poppy. So Laurel ends up getting pretty serious with this guy, and when she goes to his house and meets Poppy, she's completely blown away by the fact that Poppy looks a lot like her daughter Ellie. It's after this that she's really trying to investigate what exactly happened to her daughter. And I mean, there is nothing a mom won't do to uncover what really happened to her daughter. And let me say this story is heartbreaking. I felt for Laurel. It's such a difficult situation to be in, you know. And one thing that I was really upset about was the fact that I didn't really feel like she got the support from her family. I would say, like, I didn't really feel like her husband and her supported each other. And even as her kids got older, I can't put myself in their shoes because it's such a difficult situation to be in. But I felt like her daughter Hannah was very cold. But I also understood that Hannah almost felt like she was pushed to the side because her sister went missing. But if I would like to think of the fact that if I was Hannah and, you know, I lost a sister or my sister went missing, I would try my best to be there for my mom. Because, you know, at the end of the day, there's a piece of the family that's missing. I don't know. I can't even put myself in their shoes, but I would only imagine. I felt like the reason to why Ellie went missing was not strong enough. It was almost like it's supposed to be like, oh, it happened, you know what I mean? But I felt like they could have gone more into detail about why it happened. So that's kind of where it lacked for me. My biggest, because there is a part where we get to see Ellie's point of view. And that's probably the most heartbreaking part to me, to read what she was feeling and what she was thinking. That's probably the part that really broke my heart. But leading up to Ellie's disappearance and even after, I just felt like that wasn't strong enough for me. I still recommend it. I think it's a good book, and I'm really happy I read it. Okay. Okay, I'm so disappointed with this book. I gave it 3 stars because there were some things I did like about it. But you guys, I'm talking about American Royals Majesty. If you guys have read this book, tell me what you guys think about that ending, because I was pissed. I mean, okay, so if you guys don't know, Majesty American Royals is the second part to American Royals, which is pretty much a story about an American royal family, descendants from George Washington. And we learned in the first book that there is Beatrice, who's the next in line for throne. You know, she's pretty much been trained her whole life to become a queen. But then we have Samantha, who is the sister, and she's a princess who's kind of like the rebel. She's the rebel, the party girl. She never has a serious relationship. And she also has a twin named Jeff, Prince Jeff, who is kind of like the cute guy. Everybody loves him. There's really nothing special about him, honestly. I didn't really care for him. The story is told from 4 different perspectives: Beatrice, Samantha, Nina, who is Samantha's best friend since they were kids, and she's also in love with Jeff, and then Daphne, who is kind of like a crazy girl who's trying to make it to the top, and she won't stop at anything, and she also really likes Jeff. She's dated him, but in the first book, they're broken apart. Then the book ends up with, okay, so I'm sorry, I cannot talk about this book without ruining what happened in the first book. So if you guys have not read this one or don't want it to be spoiled, then skip ahead. But the first book ends with Beatrice becoming a queen. Her dad passed away, and she at this point is in love with her security guard named Connor. But she's engaged to a guy named Teddy, who Samantha also really likes. I know, a mess. In this book, we get to see that Beatrice is really being tested for her crown, you know? She's now a queen, but there's still things she cannot do till she gets married to Teddy. So we kind of see her reaction to all that. One of the problems that I had with the first book and I have with this book is the fact that it's told from 4 different perspectives, and that is just way too much for me. I, like, honestly, not lying, was skimming ahead on some of Nina's parts and Daphne's parts. I was just like, I do not care. Now, I felt like if we would have read everything from Samantha and Beatrice's perspective, it would have really made a stronger book. There's a part where we know, obviously we all know that Daphne is not a good person. She does anything to climb to the top. And I felt like in this book, they could have made it stronger if they would have taken Daphne's point of view away, because there's this part where Daphne kind of befriends Samantha, but she's kind of becoming an enemy to Beatrice. And I just, like, what was the whole point of that? I don't even understand. Is there going to be a 3rd book? I don't know, but that whole perspective, that whole triangle between, well, actually not even a triangle, it's a square, because it's all 4 of them that kind of have problems with Daphne. But that could have been stronger if we would have only read from Samantha's point of view, because at this point Samantha sees her as a good person that she maybe just misread, and Beatrice is like, no, I know who she is and I do not like her. Like, that just did not do anything for me because it went nowhere. And let me just say that that ending was weak. The fact that the author was introducing different characters to kind of wrap up the story, it just didn't really do anything for me. Like, I really didn't care much about the love stories in this book. I really wanted to see Beatrice become a queen, which she was slowly getting there, but the book just didn't do anything for me, guys. I'm sorry. I personally did not like it. If anything, the only real person that I was really invested in was Beatrice. Her love story seemed cute. I like that. I like that she was able to rely on, you know, her partner in the story. But I wanted to see more of the queen aspect and ruling her country. Samantha's guy in this story, I liked the fact that they brought in the topic of race. You know, they do talk about the fact that he is a Black American, and that was a problem to a lot of people in America. And I just felt like they could have also delved into that, but I don't know, you guys. Let me know what you guys think. I was disappointed. That ending just drives me crazy. Yeah. There we go. The next book that I read was a self-help book, and this was actually a recommendation by my fiance, and that is No Excuses by Brian Tracy. And I ended up giving this book I want to say I'm giving it like a 3.5 or a 4, but I'm leaning more towards a 3.5 for a lot of different reasons. First, I really did like his way of teaching people about becoming a people person. I have worked customer service my whole life, and I really felt like his topics of discussion when it came to building relationships are not just professionally, but through your family members and your partner, and I really like that. I like the fact that he went into detail about how to build a relationship with your partner, you know, what's important to you, what's important to the person that you're with, how to really build up that communication and that trust. I also really like the fact that he went into detail about, you know, raising your children, what's important to your children, what they tend to do, how to get them out of certain habits. I like that. I don't have children yet, but I felt like it was still a really good conversation to have, even with like my nephew. As he's getting older, there's certain things that he may not want to communicate with me, but I felt like certain things that this author talked about were really good topics to discuss. And most importantly, the reason why I read this book was the fact that leadership and accountability. He really talked about being, you know, dependable and having a certain leadership, how you need to look at who's the best in your field and learn from them. Never be afraid to ask someone for help or ask them for advice. I really felt like those were really strong topics, but a lot of his information I felt like could have been outdated. A lot of the things that he went about, you know, when it came to women in the work field and women at home, I didn't really tend to like that. I've always been a person that's like, you never really know what's going to happen in the future. I've lost so many people that are close to me that spent a lot of their lives just trying to become a certain person, and they were never really able to enjoy their surroundings. I feel like you have to have a medium where you have to meet in the middle of what's really important and when to really live your life. And I felt like this author was leaning more towards how to be successful and there's no space for anything else. And I feel like that's a really dangerous line. Again, while I did really enjoy his advice, I just felt like I had to take it with a grain of salt. But I did learn a lot about communication and leadership. So I still really enjoy the book. I recommend it, but I did find myself rolling my eyes at some of the advice that he was giving, especially when it came to women. Again, I like the book and I'm excited about leaning more towards self-help books. So if you have any recommendations, leave them down below. But let's get into my last book review, and that is a Jasmine Guillory book, and that is Royal Holiday. You guys, I loved this book. So this has to do with the character named Vivian. So I've read Jasmine's books before. They tend to be with young adult or even adult characters. This has to do with Vivian. She's on the older aspect. I think she's in her 50s, but I loved her. I actually really loved Vivian. Like, I felt myself rooting for her. I felt like she was a very strong and smart individual, and it just made me like, I wanted her to enjoy her life to the fullest potential and not stop at anything. In this book, Vivian is a very hardworking woman. You know, she's striving to be the best in her field, not only because of the fact that she wants to prove it to herself, but she wants to be an influence to any other Black woman that wants to also be in that field. She kind of just wants to make it possible for them. She is a social worker in the city of Oakland, and she goes to England because her daughter is a fashion stylist. She's gonna go and help the Duchess for her outfits during, you know, the royal season, and she takes her mom Vivian with her. And Vivian meets a gentleman by the name of Malcolm who works for the Queen, and I was so jealous for Vivian's life during this time. She was meeting the Queen, riding horses, taking a stroll around London. I was just kind of like, girl, damn. But I think why I loved this book so much is because Vivian and Malcolm kind of helped themselves identify with what was really important in their lives. You know, Vivian, she was up for this job that she was really looking forward to. But Malcolm almost noticed right away that although Vivian felt like it was supposed to be her next step, Malcolm told Vivian, like, I can see that this job is not, it does not make you as happy as a current job you have. And that kind of really made Vivian notice what was important to her and what wasn't. And that just kind of really made the story for me. I love Vivian. I liked Vivian and Malcolm together, and I was just rooting for Vivian the whole time. I was like, yes, girl, get it. It's a funny story. It's cute. Actually, it was a really funny story. I remember I kept laughing a lot during this one, but I really enjoyed it, and it's probably my favorite Jasmine Galori novel. I highly recommend this one. It's even better if you read it during Christmas. I think if I read it during Christmas, I would have been like, oh my God, I'm ready to go to London. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. And that is it, you guys. That's all the books that I read for this month. If you guys have read any of these or want to read any of them, please comment down below letting me know which ones. I hope that you guys had an amazing reading month. I know I did. I will see you guys in my next video. I hope you guys have a great rest of your week and take care.